Welcome back to the imaginary gallery. The all-seeing eye is watching you, Illuminati. Tonight is the topic about depression, which I kept thinking back to this particular book that I've planned to mention in a different video, and probably several. What does the book on depression have to do with anything we talk about here on this channel? Well, I was wondering that myself, because I thought, well, I don't think about depression a lot, but that book, though, I keep thinking about that book. Well, here it is, and I'll put this information in the link, or in the bottom. But many years ago, probably 20 years ago, I did actually go through a very deep depression, just like Shirley Manson. And this book really helped, even though I've heard criticism that this book only helps you when you're not depressed, but when you are depressed it doesn't. But I think it has some valuable concepts which actually turned out to serve more than one purpose. But basically it's called Feeling Good, the New Mood Therapy. The idea is it's called the clinically proven drug-free treatment for depression, but it also mentions drugs as well in the back as far as antidepressants and so on. So my view is that, that's one method, and it's called cognitive therapy. And that's one method of psychology. There are other types, which is not something I was aware of when I chose that major in college, because I thought, ooh, psychology? I'll take that class and I'll know it all. But no, it's more like learning a bunch of different people's theories, and there is no exact anything. It's just, well, this person believes this, well, that person believes that, and that, and just, it's all different. It's just like religions. But I did find some valuable lessons, and is, if you're going through a depression, it helps you to look at the thoughts that you're having, because the basis behind cognitive therapy is the way that you think affects the way that you feel. So if you're thinking certain thought patterns in your head and believing them, you're likely to be in a depressed state, because that's your awareness. That's what you have. That's what you're thinking. And the point of the book is to point out various, as they're called, cognitive distortions, which are basically errors in thinking. And there's a whole list in there, which I'm sure if you read, you would be very familiar with many of them, because they're very common. But I just figured there was something about that book, and I finally figured it out, which I may reveal later, because it's not really important right now, especially if you've ever gone through a depression. And again, it's telling you with cognitive therapy that your thoughts influence the way you feel, which, that's one viewpoint. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, that's the answer for everything. But as I said before, I like to draw from different areas, and maybe if these methods from this area work, great. Maybe if these from that other one work, great. But there's so much out there to pick from. But I just remember the book helping, and it was recommended because I did go to a therapist and told her about my deep depression, and she suggested that book, and I walked right down the street to Barnes & Noble and picked it up. But it's one of those books that you read and it sticks with you, because it has so many lessons in it. Plus, one thing I noticed was a lot of the cognitive distortions, which are basically we have thought processes we go through which can contribute to negative moods, and it actually analyzes each one and kind of like argues it to be inaccurate. Well, the strange thing, or secondary benefit from this book, was when I got involved in a long-term relationship, I would quite frequently hear this cluster B person using many lines from those cognitive distortions, like stating them as fact. And I just recall hearing that, thinking, he obviously hasn't read the book. If he really believes that, And I would attempt to be the helping person I am, thinking, well, wow, I used to feel that way too, but I learned this. So I would like say, hey, get this. In fact, I said, let's get that little yellow book. You get yours, I'll get mine, and we'll both read from it. Because I really thought I could help this creature. I didn't know it was one of those cluster bees. I just thought, oh, he needs to be taken down the right path because he's believing these, basically, they're distortions. But I'll focus on one this evening. The cognitive distortion I've chosen for this evening is number 4 on the list. It is called Disqualifying the Positive. And what we're talking about are mental illusions we put ourselves through based on who knows what, maybe things we were taught by parents or that didn't know any better, or from the television or anywhere. But with this one, Disqualifying the Positive, what he says is, an even more spectacular mental illusion is the persistent tendency of some depressed individuals to transform neutral and or even positive experiences into negative ones. You don't just ignore positive experiences, you cleverly and swiftly turn them in to their nightmarish opposite. And he calls this reverse alchemy. Been depressed, you may have developed the talent for doing the exact opposite. You can instantly transform golden joy into emotional lead. Not intentionally, however. You're probably not even aware that you're doing it to yourself. So as an everyday example, this would be the way of most of us have been conditioned to respond to compliments. When somebody praises your appearance or your work, you might automatically tell yourself, oh yeah, they're just being nice. With one swift blow, you mentally disqualify their compliment. You do the same thing to them when you tell them, oh, it was nothing really. If you constantly throw cold water on the good things that happen, no wonder life seems damp and chilly to you. So disqualifying the positive is one of the most destructive forms of cognitive distortion. You're like a scientist intent on finding evidence to support some pet hypothesis. The hypothesis that dominates your depressive thinking is usually one of some version of I am second rate. Whenever you have a negative experience, you dwell on it and conclude, well, this proves what I've known all along. In contrast, when you have a positive experience, you tell yourself, oh, well, that was a fake or a fluke. It doesn't count. The price you pay for this tendency is intense misery and an inability to appreciate the good things that happen. Have you ever experienced that? While this type of cognitive distortion is commonplace, it can form the basis for some of the worst or most extreme intractable forms of depression. For example, a young woman hospitalized during a severe depressive episode told me, no one could possibly care about me because I'm such an awful person. I'm a complete loner. Not one person on earth gives a damn about me. When she was discharged from the hospital, many patients and staff members expressed their great fondness for her. Can you guess how she negated all this? They don't count because they don't see me in the real world. A real person outside a hospital could never care about me. And then I asked her how she reconciled this with the fact that she had numerous friends and family outside the hospital who did care about her. She replied, they don't count because they don't know the real me. You see, Dr. Burns, inside I'm absolutely rotten. I'm the worst person in the world. It would be impossible for anyone to really like me for even one moment. And by disqualifying positive experiences in this manner, she can maintain a negative belief which is clearly unrealistic and inconsistent with her everyday experiences. So while your negative thinking is probably not as extreme as hers, there may be times every day when you do inadvertently ignore genuinely positive things that have happened to you. This removes much of life's richness and makes things appear needlessly bleak. I'm proud to say I'm not in that depression state, which I was over, was it 2 decades ago? It was just overwhelming. But I can recall feeling that way, like with the disqualifying of the positive. Like I would have, let's say, 10 things going for me that I didn't even pay attention to or even consider, and I would focus on some failure or perceived failure, and that would just make me think, oh, this is horrible. Even though I can look at it now thinking, you had one little thing that was horrible, but you had all these other great things. But we tend to shove those aside and just focus on the negative or the perceived negative situation.
Hi.
I can't help it. I fell in love with Angel Cologne. He cheated on me with Dr. Cheetah and Dr. Lou. They had a threesome. It ruined my life. I'm gonna get revenge. My third eye is open, and it's reptilian. Look out!
Oh, don't you worry. I am a firm believer that what goes around comes around. So, you better be prepared.
Yes, the narcopath for president. Because 2 heads are always better than 1.
I hope you're happy. Look what you've done to me. I'm ruined. I'm shape-shifting way worse than I'm supposed to. How dare you? It's your fault. How dare you?